And here we go again. Welcome to Thursday Night Blather. We're back to the prison stories this week. Did one a couple of weeks ago that was called "Can We Unite Behind Common Sense?" That was my first political-ish podcast since November. I just couldn't help it. The voucher hearing had just happened, and I had a few things to express. But right now, we're just back to storytelling. So, greetings. I just got back from a long trip. I was in the Eastern time zone, and I just got back really late last night, and I wasn't really even considering doing a podcast tonight, but I try to keep up with it. I'll do a quick one. I want to talk about, well, let's put it this way. There's a very small village in upstate New York called Saranac Lake, and there's another small village in upstate New York called Lake Placid. And in between those two villages, Saranac Lake and Lake Placid, is an even smaller village called Raybrook. In August, 50 years ago now, I was trying to get into a facility in Staten Island called Arthur Kill because I was pretty tired of being up by the Canadian border and having people have to go through what they had to go through to get there from New York City. Arthur Kill being in Staten Island, it would have been, I would have got a lot more visitors, and people wouldn't have been traveling, 6 hours to get there. So I was hoping to get into Arthur Kill, but then they opened Raybrook. They were, you probably never heard of Saranac Lake unless you're from New York. I doubt you heard of Raybrook unless you've been talking to me. But you might have heard of Lake Placid, because Lake Placid is where they had the 1980 Olympics and Winter Olympics. And in anticipation of the upcoming Olympics and the need for cheap labor, they moved. It was probably the design all along, because they always called the medium security building that I was in, Building 40, the Clinton Annex, they called it Camp Adirondack, whereas the rest of the annex was all medium security buildings. This one was just as medium security as the rest, but they called it camp. Somehow they called it minimum security. Well, when we moved to Raybrook, it finally actually became minimum security. So they took us all down there, a lot of us going there at the same time, probably a couple of buses moving. Well, there were 99 inmates in Building 40. And so there were probably about 150 in Raybrook. They took a bunch of people also from other buildings in the annex. And again, they needed cheap labor. In Building 40, or in Clinton Annex, I was the storeroom clerk. And that job got grandfathered into me. So in Raybrook, I became the storeroom clerk once again. We were given one instruction, which was go directly to your room assignment. Do not open any other doors, which of course was immediately violated. Grease and Shank, Mr. G. Pitts and Shank, who we've talked about before, became roommates. I'm not sure how they pulled it off, but they were. And they immediately found some kind of supply closet, and they invited people to their room. They had hung curtains and put up paintings all over the place that they'd stolen from the supply closet. Nobody said anything. Those guys had a lot of juice in there, and a lot of respect by the guards. So Grease and Shank broke into a supply closet, found decorations. Another guy, Fremont Conrad and Fred Glover, found a music room. They broke into a room that had literally electric guitar, PA, bass, a set-up drum kit. We'll get to that in another episode, but I just want to establish that it was there. And this guy, Terry, I don't remember his last name, and I broke into another supply closet where we found a Polaroid camera. One of those cameras that when you took a picture, it gave 4 images. I think it was a mugshot camera. I don't know. For whatever reason, it gave 4 images, or maybe a passport camera. Anyway, so we took a bunch of pictures of each other to send home to our families. That is the prequel to a much bigger story that I'll also get to another episode. As far as the facility itself goes, it was described as a ski chalet. I mean, that's what we thought it was when we moved in, and it kind of looked like one, but in reality, it was a former sanatorium. So I looked it up on Grok, And I talk about being small villages. You have Saranac Lake, population a little under 5,000. Lake Placid, population a little over 2,000. Raybrook, population roughly 1,200, including the prison. So that's where we were. And as far as the very brief history of the facility goes, that's a 1935 photo of the facility, though, over at Raybrook. Here's a aerial view of the facility, a much more recent photo, and here's another aerial view of the facility, and that is definitely it. That's where we went. So you can see it's in a beautiful green area, wooded area, and guys were out there. There was a lot of forest conservation crews, but the main thrust of our being there was to start getting the facility for the upcoming Olympics, which were 4 years hence at the time. So the site has a long history. It began as the Raybrook State Hospital, a tuberculosis sanatorium. It operated as Camp Adirondack, a work camp in the 1970s. I can personally verify that because I was there in 1976. And it was redesigned as a medium security correctional facility in 1981. They must have done some big alterations because that building had no bars, no fences, no nothing. And a lot happened when we were there, including an escape, which is one hell of a story. There was an escape. There was a drug bust. There was a case of, I guess, either extreme stomach horror, parasites. Some might say dysentery. We'll talk about that in upcoming episodes. I just want to introduce Raybrook in this one, and I'm really tired. I really am. As of 15 minutes before I went live, I was not planning on doing this, but it's Thursday night. I'm in town, and I just want, like I said, I just want to get the intro to Raybrook going. It was a big deal going there. It truly was. A lot happened. There was even a presidential election while I was there, and that was one hell of a night. It's the night that Jimmy Carter defeated Gerald Ford, and there's a story behind that as well. So that's the story there. I'm not sure. Once this is edited, it'll probably just a few minutes long. So, but it was a big deal. I didn't get to move close to home, but this was it was a big step towards freedom. Life in Raybrook, except in the aftermath of the escape, was far less draconian than life in Building 40. So it was definitely an upgrade in reality. And starting next week, I'll start telling some Raybrook stories. So that's about it. This is a short one. And right now it's 13 minutes unedited. I bet it's not more than 8 minutes once I edit this down. At this point, 50 years ago today, we were either at Raybrook or very much on our way there. Part of me wants to say we didn't actually get there till September 1st, but we were definitely knew we were going there, and we knew who was going. So the very tired boomer has blathered. Thank you for watching this edited version of Thursday Night Blather. Enter Raybrook, exit Dannemora. Enter minimum security, exit medium security. Peace out.